SPOS Energy is our most popular water treatment system that we offer for our hot tubs. And so we've created a simple 5-step system to make it as easy as possible to go through so that we don't overcomplicate things and make water balancing as simple as possible. So what we've created is this 5-step system. It's broken down to be a once-a-week treatment. And so we're gonna go through that 5-step system right now, breaking down each step individually. So step number 1, we utilize a test strip to monitor your sanitation level, your alkalinity, and pH levels. So using a test strip is quite simple. When you open up the test strips will be face down. What I mean by that is the part that you grab will be the part that you see initially. So if you can see there, we've got 4 squares that are gonna do 4 separate tests, and I'm holding the very bottom. Now the mistake that I see people make is that when they use a test strip, they put it in the tub, they swish it around, they hold it in there for a period of time, then they pull it out. The problem with that is that you wash the colors out. What you wanna do is simply dip, leave it in for a second or 2, pull it out, let it air dry for a couple of seconds, and then take the strip to the side of the container. I'm gonna take the first square, I'm gonna go to the first line. I always start at 0 and slowly move it to color matches. So in this particular case, the chlorine level is testing somewhere between 3 and 5 parts per million, which is good, or maybe on the high side of good. We then go to the second, which is the alkalinity, slowly go through. Same idea there. This is showing in a good zone. My pH level is showing on the low end of the good scale. And then the very last one, starting at the bottom, is my calcium hardness, which tells us how much calcium is in the water. So on this particular test, everything is testing in a good zone. But let's say your alkalinity and your pH were testing low. At that point, we would go to our bottles, and we have an alkalinity increaser, and we have a pH increaser. I always start with alkalinity first, and we figured out that a general rule of thumb, to see a significant color change on the strip, you need to add approximately 3 capfuls of the alkalinity increaser in order to see any movement on those strips. So if you use that as a guideline, 3 caps, and when I refer to the cap, I'm referring to our bottle size and that small little cap size. That cap size holds approximately 15 grams. Okay, so we're adding approximately 45 grams in order to see a color change. So I'm just gonna add 1 capful because I really don't have to move my levels very much. But what I do is I first pour over top of the tub, so if there's any spillage, it falls into the tub. I am going to turn my jets on so that we're making the water move, and it's gonna mix everything. And I pour it into the center of the tub. Let that mix. So there I've added my alkalinity increaser. If I needed to move the pH, same rule of thumb. 3 caps will move approximately 1 color on your test strips. Now, let's say that we were testing on the high side. So I'm gonna go back to my strips here. If we were testing on these darker colors, so like a dark blue for alkalinity, a dark red for pH, that means that our levels are on the high side. We need to decrease those levels. Now here's the trick. We get this call all the time. There is only 1 bottle for a decreaser. It's a pH decreaser. What happens is we use a pH decreaser to bring the alkalinity level down as well. Using that same rule of 3 caps or 45 grams, you're going to put in 3 caps per color. Now this needs to be a slower process. When you increase, you can put in 6, 9 caps at once to move your alkalinity fast. When you're decreasing alkalinity, it's a slower process. So if you're testing really high on your strips, what you would want to do here is add 3 caps now, give the tub a couple of hours, put in another 3 caps later, and maybe even a 3rd dose the next day. What I find is step number one is the trickiest step, because you've got a little bit of guesswork to do based on how those strips are looking. Now, if you wanted to eliminate that guesswork, bring a water sample into the store, and we're going to make this a more exact science for you. With the test strips, you're playing around based on the colors, but with these guidelines of using 3 caps to move a color, if you use that as a guideline, you'll find that balancing that with water is very easy. Moving on to step number 2. Step number 2, we're going to add 10 caps of our Synergy Clean on a weekly basis. Now, when we set this system up, we set this up for an average size hot tub of about 5 to 6 people. If you have a very large tub, you may want to increase these numbers slightly. If you have a smaller 2-3 person size tub, you can decrease these numbers as well. But what we find is that 10 caps of the Clean on a weekly basis is about right for the average size hot tub. So the Clean is an enzyme. What enzymes do is that they attack all of the stuff that we introduce into the hot tub from our bodies, from our bathing suits. Things like conditioners, things like soaps, deodorants, hairsprays, oil-based items that get into the water, create kind of a foam. Basically, the enzymes are going to attack those, break those down, so that we're not going to have that foamy sludge built up in the water. Now, this one's a liquid, so you definitely want to make sure that you're pouring over top of the tub. So you're going to put 10 caps. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so roughly 10 caps. Again, we're mixing everything so that that is going to mix through, so you're not getting a strong concentration. We also are going to add 3 caps of our stain and scale control too. So the stain and scale control protects your equipment from scale buildup long term. This one's really important because this is what's going to save you longevity on your hot tub. It's going to make your equipment last longer. It's going to make things run nice and smooth. 3 capfuls of this. 1, 2, 3. You can see I spilled a little bit, no problem. I went straight into the tub, no waste. All right. Step number 3, 1 cap of our Spa Synergy Initiator. So the Initiator is a great product. What this stuff does is it releases carbon dioxide out of the water, but more importantly what it does is it closes our skin follicles and it makes the water feel nice and silky soft. We first started using this for customers that had irritation to the water. They felt that chlorines or bromines made them itchy. They felt like they needed to put lotion on after they got out of a hot tub. Putting in some of this just before you get into the hot tub is a great habit to get into. But we like to put it in on a weekly basis, and so we're calling for 1 capful once a week. Now I'm just going to open this guy up and show you that inside of this tub there's 2 levels. When we refer to a capful, we're talking about the inner ring capful. So I'm just going to pour this, show you here, roughly an inner ring like that. If it's a full cap, that's no problem. It just ends up being a little bit of waste. So again, pour this into the middle, and that's always mixing. Step number 4 is our Synergy tablets. Now, in the Synergy system, it's a chlorine base. We do have some customers that prefer bromine, so you could substitute bromine for chlorine down the road, but traditionally the Synergy system works off of a chlorine base. So there's a couple of different ways that you can introduce the chlorine. The best way is by utilizing a dispenser. You can sometimes have floating dispensers in the tub. It looks like kind of a mushroom that floats around in the tub. But if you have one of our Jacuzzi 3 or 400 series tubs, you can get a dispenser that goes in line in the filter. So I'm going to turn the jets off. And what we typically want to use, we want to keep the chlorine levels more on the lower side than the higher side. So I typically recommend that you want to go through between 3 and 4 tablets on a weekly basis, but this is going to be all dependent on how much you're using the hot tub. If that hot tub is getting a lot of use, you're using it every single day for 45 minutes to an hour a day, you may have to double that and use anywhere from 6 to 8 tablets in a week. But for most people, we find in that 3 to 4, maybe 5 tablets in a week range is acceptable. Now, a common question that we get from customers when they're sticking to 3 to 4 tablets a week is that they don't see much of a chlorine reading on their test strip. And the first question we ask is, what does the water look like? Is it staying nice and crystal clear, or is it going all foamy? Is it looking all murky? If that water is staying crystal clear, as long as you're seeing a trace amount of chlorine, that's what we're targeting. We're trying to purposely keep our chlorine level the equivalent of what comes out of our tap water, which is less than 1 part per million. And that sometimes won't even register on the test strip. Bringing regular samples into the store to help double check this is really crucial. We do recommend that you bring in those samples as often as you wish, but as bare minimum, we'd like to see those samples once a month. So on this particular tub, I'm going to go over to the filters. And this one has the dispenser built right in. So the dispenser basically clips out. I can drop my tablets in. 3, 4, I'm putting 4 tablets in there. I'm just going to bring this dispenser over just so you can see. I lock this dispenser into the top here, and then I can actually turn to expose more or less pucks. Now this is way too open. These tablets would be dissolved inside of 2 days if I had it that wide open. So what would happen is you would have high chemical level today, high tomorrow, but by the 3rd day it would start to crash down to 0, and by the end of the week you would have nothing in the tub. So what we want to do is we want to close this down. For most of our jacuzzi hot tubs that have 24-hour filtration built in, we're basically going to expose the very, very bit of the first line so that we can ensure that those tablets last the entire week. If you find that you have lots of tablet left after 7 days, open that up a little bit more. But typically we find that just a tiny bit of the tablet exposed is what you're looking for. And then at the very, very bottom, there's little teeth in there. You want to make sure that's pulled down so that those teeth are locked in. So we're going to put this back into the filter. And in here, this is the dual filter system from Jacuzzi. We have the 2 big filters side by side. What you want to do is look down, we take this filter out, and ensure that the dispenser is on the side that has a grate down in the bottom here. The other side will have a big open hole. General rule of thumb, I would say on 90% of the Jacuzzi hot tubs out there, that grate is on the very front, but I do know that the J365 model back a few years ago had the grate on the far side. I'm not sure why they did that, but most of them, that dispenser goes on the filter closest to your top side control, but the way to double check is look for the grate. You want your dispenser on the grate. And those tablets will do their job over the course of the next week. Okay, step 5. Step 5 is what we refer to as shocking the spa. We utilize these individual packets called clear. Basically, when we shock the spa, we're releasing a nitrogen gas out of the water that builds up and does not allow chlorine to do its job properly. These individual packets are nice because it's 1 packet once a week. Take some scissors, cut the top off. I'm going to put the jets back on. Pour this guy in. And basically let it do its job. We recommend, strongly recommend, the cover is completely removed, not just flipping it over one side, but completely removed, and run those jets for at least a full cycle, which is a 20-minute run on those jets. It's not even a bad idea to do a second cycle, because what's happening now is that chemical is mixing and is creating an off gas. That off gas will get trapped on the bottom side of your cover if you are not removing that cover to let it breathe. So these jets have a 20-minute timer built in. After 20 minutes, you'll turn the tub off, and then you know it's safe to close everything up and it's safe to use your hot tub after that. So that's basically our 5-step system. We do have another product that we like to use called water clarifier. Water clarifier is not part of our weekly system, but I like to refer to it as a filter enhancer. What it does is it takes fine particles that are so fine that they can pass through the filter, it brings them to the surface, it snowballs them basically to make them a big goopy type of a substance, and they get stuck in the filter. So when you use the water clarifier product, what we do is we typically use 3 caps in a dose. Open this up. 1, 2, 3. You want your jets running, and you want to make sure that you have air turned on. The air mixes with the water, it creates an agitation in the water, so you get the foam that starts forming on the hot tub. Now, oftentimes people want to get rid of the foam, and they'll use products like a defoamer or an anti-foam, which will get rid of the foam temporarily. The purpose of the water clarifier is to create this foaming effect, but it's more of a sludgy foam, so that your filters will then take that foam out. So the secret is, after you use the clarifier product, pull your filters out, take them to a sink, give them a rinse, because you're then going to wash all of that stuff that's trapped in your filters out, and that's the best way to try and get rid of that foam. That and making sure that your water is properly balanced, of course. So that's basically our 5-step system. If you have one of our laminated sheets, it'll go through those 5 steps. It'll outline everything that I just talked about, but then if you flip it over, it's going to go through some more longer-term items as well. It talks about bringing in a water sample on a monthly basis. If you happen to be a Jacuzzi customer, you've purchased your hot tub from us, we have a filter cleaning service that we provide for our customers. We recommend that those filters get rinsed at least once a month. In some cases, it's every 2 weeks, but on a monthly basis, pull the filters out, rinse them at home, and then every 2 to 3 months, actually bring them to our store and let us do a proper professional filter cleaning on those filters. And in doing that, you're going to get more life out of your filters. The chemicals are going to be a lot easier to balance. We recommend that the hot tub is drained and refilled every 4 to 6 months, so that's 2 to 3 times a year. Bringing in a water sample, we can help you with that and give you more of a guideline as to if your hot tub should get filled, drained more often or less often. We actually measure what's called the total dissolved solids in the hot tub, and that level tells us when it's time to drain your hot tub. So that, in a nutshell, is our system. I hope this helps in remembering the steps to do in your tub. All of our products are available to buy on an individual basis. You can also buy the Synergy kit, which basically gives you the initiator in step number 3, the clean in step number 2, the tablets in step number 4, and the clear, which is the packets, in step number 5, all in one kit. So all you really have to buy outside of that are your balancers and your stain and scale control. So that's a nice kit to have. We now have our website with an online store, jacuzzimanitoba.ca. You can order all of our products right off of our site there, and we can ship your chemicals to you directly now as well. So I thank you for your time, and good hot tubbing to you.